What's going on, y'all? It's the Morning Hustle with L'Oreal and Kyle Santillian. And yes, we are home with $1,000 cash grab.
And you can qualify for your chance at the cash by texting CASH to 71007. 10 questions, 60 seconds. Get them all right. You'll walk away with $1,000 so you can hire our good friend here.
And the good friend we're speaking of is our hustler, Dethra Giles.
Yeah.
Here with us this morning. Yeah. Good morning.
To save some of y'all lives out here.
How you feeling?
I feel amazing. It's good to be with you all.
Well, thank you for being here. Now, for the people that don't know, you are an HR specialist.
I am.
And with that being said, Dethra is the person that can get you from the cubicle to the corner office.
I know that's right. That's what I'm talking about.
Ooh, what do you mean by that, first and foremost?
So people start off their careers at the cubicle, the receptionist, the front desk, and they all want to know, how do I become the CEO? How do I run this company? And the reality is most of them have no clue because their parents never did it. No one they saw ever did it. And the way to do it now is very different than what it used to be. Mm-hmm. So they really need a guide, someone that tells them, this is how it looks and this is how you do it. This is how you get from the cubicle, the front desk, to the corner office, the C-suite.
And sometimes when people hear the word or the letters HR, they get nervous just off bat. Like they don't know that it actually can work and help you in your favor.
Absolutely. People will say you can't trust HR because they're in it for the company. It's their best interest of the company.
I've heard that numerous times.
The reality is that means you can't be trusted. If working for the company and the best interest of the company means you can't be trusted, isn't that why you're there? So if working for the company means you can't be trusted, then nobody can be trusted. And the reality is we put trust in the wrong light. You don't need to trust them with your life. You need to trust them with the job.
Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And so can you trust them to do what's in the best interest of the company, which is make sure that you as an employee are taken care of? That's the best interest of the company.
Man, I got so many questions. It's not even just for me like that. Friends, like things that have happened. And I'm pretty sure you've heard some crazy story.
Oh, my goodness.
I had heard a story where a job gave out an address to another employee. Is that against terms? Like, is something like that against?
You should not be giving out. What you do is rank, file, and serial number, right? That's what I tell people when they call and get a reference check, rank, file, and serial number, because I can only tell what I can prove. So you shouldn't give ambiguities like, oh, reference check, was this a good employee? I'm not going to tell you whether they're a good employee. But if you ask me were they consistently late, I can prove that. I have time clocks for that.
Ooh.
You know, did they have poor performance? I have performance reviews. I can tell you that. But did you like them? That's irrelevant. So I can tell you what I can prove.
Got you. Talk a little bit about the fact that I feel like most times people think of HR, like mentioned earlier, when they have a problem.
Sexual harassment.
Yeah. Give us an example of something that's not a problem or negative, but a positive reason that somebody's come to HR.
What they don't realize is as HR, we know everything. We know where the bodies are buried. We know where the bodies will be resurrected. Right? And so when you're thinking about long-term career strategy, HR knows when that position is going to become available. I know when people are going to retire 5 years before they retire. So if a VP position is going to be open in 5 years, I know it.
Are you able to share that, though?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you're talking to me and you say, hey, HR lady, I want to be a VP in 5 years, I can say you need to be a VP in marketing because they're going to retire in 3.5 years. And on top of that, you need to go and talk to them, get them to be your mentor because they're going to tell me who should be put in that position when they leave.
Yeah, so HR can work to your benefit.
Absolutely. It's like anything else. If you work it right, it will work for you. But that's where I come in. Most people don't know how to work it.
Yeah.
Right? And I teach them, hey, go ask this question. Because they can't say, he gonna retire. But what they can say is this position might be available in a few years.
Right.
Prepare yourself for that. Don't do extra work for free. Do extra work for strategy. Because if you go work with them on this project, that project's gonna lead to a contract that needs someone to lead it.
So what if that does happen? Say you're working at a job and you believe that these are your certain descriptions of what you're supposed to be doing, and then out of nowhere they add on something, a task or whatever the case, and they try to tell you, well, that's a part of what you're already doing for us, so you have to do it.
Here's what you can do. People will say, I'm not going to do it. Just go and tell them you ain't going to do it. Wrong strategy. I would tell my client, you go and lay down your list of priorities and list of job duties and give them a priority structure and tell them, here are the things I have. I'm adding what you've given me. Tell me which of these are the priority and which ones go lacking if I don't have time.
Because one of them about to fall off.
Right.
Let them tell you. You don't tell them, I'm not doing it. Now we're being belligerent. But now let's involve them in the strategy of how work gets done. Here are the things. You tell me what's the priority because I can't do all 50. I can only do 5. Which 5 matter to you?
How can HR help you determine whether or not you're being paid what you should be paid? For instance, like I want to say this first. I know that I can't come to you and say, hey, how much is a med making? Because I should be making more.
Well, I want to know what he's making.
But I may be able to say, like, well, what questions can I ask that you can give me information on?
Don't ask them anything. You go to them with information. There are several websites that can literally tell you how much you should be making based on your job duties, your years of experience, your education, and your location. And those websites are free. You can put all the information in. It will say, here's the mean, the median, the high end, the low end. And you can look at that and say, based on this, I should be at the high end, which is 150. And go to them and say, the market value for my position is 150. I want to get to 150 based on the value I add, not based on the computer told me it's 150, based on me knowing the value I bring. And here's how you know. You need to be making 2 to 5 times your salary for the organization to afford you. That means whatever they're paying you, they're making 2 to 5 times off of you. So now I know what I do. I know the value that adds, and now pay me what I'm worth because I've done my research.
I know that's right. Now, what happens when some people, because I've seen this in companies where the boss will kind of like use their power to threaten the person not to go to HR or like stand in between them and somebody that can kind of fix a problem.
So that's the minute you want to run to HR. You want to get HR involved and their leadership involved. And here's the deal. Document everything. That doesn't mean that I am saying, oh, I'm writing this down. Listen, I am the queen of a per our conversation email.
I know that's right. Me too. Ask about me. I love a receipt, child.
And here's the deal. What I also do is I'm a mediator. I have a master's in conflict management. And what I tell people is what you say and what people hear are 2 very different things.
Right.
And my per our conversation is not just covering my behind. It's saying I want to make sure I heard you correctly because I'm going to take action based on our discussion.
Yeah.
So per our conversation, I should be doing A, B, C, and D, and here's what I plan to look like that in action, right? And so a per conversation, always. Always.
How do you know when to get out of there? Like to get out of that job. You're not happy. The HR route didn't work. You know, things are not going so well. How do you make a clean break?
So here's the thing. You already said it. When I'm not happy, if I go home and think about this job more than I think about why I'm at home, it's time for me to go. If I can't enjoy my life, if you have me on anxiety medication, it is time for me to go. You hear me? Like, leave, depart. You already know when it's time for you to go.
Right.
Now, but here's what I will say. Most of us leave because we're angry, not because we're logical.
Ooh, come on, talk about it.
And what that means is many of us, we are leaving money on the table because we're mad. If you don't want to be there, they probably don't want you there.
Right.
Now, let's make this economically advantageous for both of us.
Right.
You don't want me to leave angry because I might sue you, and I don't want to leave broke because I might have to be homeless. So let's talk about what it looks like for me to leave and not leave money on the table.
I know that's right.
How do you leverage your old job into a new one?
That's when you're leaving, say, you know what? You don't want me here and I don't want to be here. How about you keep me on the payroll for 6 months, and I get to say I have a job while I look for another job, and now we're all good. Or you make sure that when I leave, let's be clear about what you're going to write as a recommendation letter for me. I want you to write it before I walk out the door and sign it. And so we have an agreement as to what my departure is going to look like and what everybody is going to say about my departure, as well as my time here.
Because the company also doesn't want like a disgruntled person running around talking the business of the company.
No.
But what if you do have that? Because they do say you have like NDA kind of clauses in your contracts and stuff like that. So say you were treated unfairly at your job and say it was a bad break. What does that mean moving forward?
So when they say they have an NDA, remember I said you can say what's true, what you can prove. If I have the documentation to say I was treated poorly, I can say that. Now, NDAs are something different, but here's what companies know. There's a way around NDAs. While let's say, L'Oreal, you're like, I can't say I was treated poorly, but bruh, Carl, go on your Instagram and say something.
And say that you heard me say.
I heard. I can't tell you. My friend told me, right? And so companies know that. So they're very keen on how do we make this go away quietly? Just like you're saying, hey, this is what I want to negotiate. They're also saying, I'm going to give you this, but you give me that. Your friends can't go on. Kyle can't go on saying nothing crazy either.
So do you think that's what's happening? I mean, I might be tying this in and making it a stretch, but do you think that's what's happening is somewhat in the Diddy situation?
Absolutely. People are, and you also have to understand, I don't know this situation, put that out there, but people don't want to incriminate themselves, right? That's why often, like, you have these parent companies. One of my clients is LVMH, Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy.
I know that's right.
Right? But if you, so Louis Vuitton, Moet Hennessy controls Sephora. Mm-hmm. And while I'm talking about Louis Vuitton, let's make sure Sephora doesn't get implicated, right?
Yeah.
And so let's all just be quiet because this could lead to implications across this whole company, right?
I'm glad you said that because Sephora recently, my sister works for Sephora, but they recently had something that came out where I can't remember exactly what it was, but the workers was a little upset. I know you remember. So how do y'all handle something when it gets to social media now?
First of all, you try to be proactive and prevent it from getting to social media. And listen to me, companies out there, listen to what I'm saying. That is not going and telling your people they can't get on social media.
Right.
You just can't do that. But what you want to do is make sure you're monitoring social media and you're catching stuff before it becomes a problem. The first buzz I hear, let's talk about it. Don't shut them down. You fix the problem. That's what good HR people do.
Yeah.
Which is why I was successful in HR. I'm not shutting anybody down.
She's like, which is why you can't remember what they problem was.
Right. All right, so this is something that's kind of near and dear to me, right? Negotiating contracts with companies, okay? A lot of times when people, like, we work in a situation where it's not just employees, it's contract-based. Mm-hmm. And my last situation was a contract dispute, you know what I mean? And how do you find a way to get what you need from the company when they're claiming, you know damn well they got money, but they're claiming
they never got money.
Oh, they never.
Everybody broke.
They all broke. It's just like your parents when you went to McDonald's.
You got McDonald's money. You got McDonald's money.
So they're trying, of course, not to pay more money. You know you're worth more money. You know the cost of living is going up. If you stay at the same rate, you're essentially losing money because things cost more. You know, what kind of perks and other things can you do to make up for the salary if they won't budge?
So here's where people mess up. I'm going to back it up a little bit. People start contract negotiations after the contract has started. So you have to think about this stuff before you even step in the room. Before we sign on the dotted lines, you need to put in things like, okay, cost. We used to call it COLA, cost of living increase, right? Yeah. You need to think about, okay, when we hit this level, I need this amount of money going in. And here's the part that people miss the most. You negotiate your exit before you enter. You always negotiate your exit before you enter because upon your exit, emotions are going to be high and no one thinks well when emotions are high. Now I'm just pissed.
Yeah.
Like I used to do divorce mediations and y'all arguing over the ashes of a dead cat because we all pissed off now.
That's very angry. I've never been that mad.
I promise you.
And I've been mad before. I ain't been that mad.
That is not an exaggeration. That literally happened.
How do you mean? What do you mean by negotiation exit?
And who got the cat?
How do you negotiate an exit?
So at the beginning, when you're doing your contract, you literally say, if I depart on these terms, this is what I will get.
Okay.
If you make me leave on these terms, this is what I'll get. This is why you see CEOs of major companies getting fired for improprieties. And you're like, how did you get fired and still get $5 million? They negotiated their exit before they entered.
They were smart, so they could have sexually assaulted everybody, but they already then made their exit
contract. You cannot violate that contract, and so you negotiate that before it ever gets to a situation.
That's a gem right there.
It is.
Okay, so I seen this other thing where people were recording things at work and doing challenges, and it was getting them fired. Even a girl from Waffle House got fired. Okay, what is the employee's rights against or for that? Because aren't they just showing themselves at their job?
The answer is yes and no. One of the things we have to do is familiarize ourselves with our company's policy. And what happens is many people have not done that. They are like, I can do what I want to do. No, there's a whole policy and you signed something saying I agree to it. They were so happy to get a job. Yeah. The second part, I'm going to put on the part of HR in the company. Many HR organizations or companies have not kept up with the trend and modernization. This is a new era. It's a new day, and we cannot still manage people like we're even thinking about how could that benefit. Like the one with Waffle House, that was a great light on Waffle House.
That's what I thought,
it was
too.
Amazing.
Yeah.
As an HR person, I'm like, hey, y'all, this is the policy. You violated it. You're not fired. But as HR, we're going to update it and let you all know what the new policies are and not to violate policy.
Yeah, that sounds like a warning. Ain't you supposed to get a warning first?
There is a way to handle it without firing people. The flip side is we don't know what her work history was like before that.
She probably wasn't coming on time.
We just got the end of the
You
conversation.
probably told her 3 times, put the phone down and get on them eggs.
Right, because the other times it was like, it wasn't a TikTok. It was, okay, you on your phone and customers waiting. You on your phone, you burned the bacon. You're like, okay, so we don't know the whole story. But what I will say is I would have used that as a learning opportunity for them and for HR.
All right, well, how about I have a personal question. What if you have a contract, right? And all of the things that are in your contract are not being met by the company?
Oh, if that's a contract violation, that's easy. That's easy. That's a contract violation. So what you want to do is that's when you go to your attorneys and say, here, check, check, check. That is why you always document everything, because now I have the documentation to show. So if an email came out and I sent an email, hey, my contract says X and X didn't happen, and they come back with an excuse to why X didn't happen, I am not arguing with you about the excuse.
Right.
Yeah. My contract doesn't say give me an excuse.
That's what I'm
just
saying.
says give me
X.
X.
I see that.
And so now I'm going, all I needed was proof from you saying you didn't do X.
Right.
That excuse is proof that you didn't do X.
So then what's your next step? Because if you're in a contract to work at this place and y'all have a discrepancy, I've seen people have those issues and still have to go work at that company. So how does that?
Have to is a strong word.
I say have to when you're in a disagreement.
Absolutely. I'm calling my attorney when it comes to that. When there's a contract violation, my attorney's on speed dial. Even as a CEO of my own company, when there's a contract violation with a client, I am not arguing with you. I had one the other day. They were like, we didn't pay you. You had to pay by this date, or I wasn't coming. I'm a public speaker. I'm like Aretha Franklin. I speak better when I'm paid, so I ain't going on stage to check clears.
I like that.
I'm not going, and they're like, you got to go on stage. The contract says, no, the contract says this would be in the account, and I'm at the edge of the stage holding my phone, checking my account. It ain't there. Right? So you have to pay me. I'm not going on stage. My attorney will call you tomorrow.
That's it.
That's it.
Simple as that.
That's it.
Woo!
What about
you
when you're
drop gems?
She is killing them today, killing them. What about when you're in a situation and you do have a supervisor, and what is there a gray area or is there a hard defined line about how they can maneuver as time goes? And I'll give you an example. I'm gonna just give you an example from stuff I've dealt with at past jobs. You know, we work this job on the radio. What we do outside of the radio, that's on our own time. One day, the manager comes and says, hey, listen, whatever you guys are doing outside of here, I need to approve first. Sends an email and says, hey, no, don't go host that without us saying you have to, or without us saying it's okay. Are those kind of things something that we could take to HR?
Absolutely. And you should, because again, up front, this is what we agreed to. I'm sure when you came in the door with, we do other stuff outside because we know this industry. That's how you make your real money, right? And so we came in the door with that understanding. If that understanding's change, I need to understand how my pay structure will change accordingly, right? So now let's have this conversation, because now we're talking about a pay conversation.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's part of your income. You came in the door accepting a salary because you knew I can make money these other ways.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely.
Okay, so we're negotiating, right? Say we're sitting at the negotiation table and they're like, listen, I get what you're saying, but we have no more money. What's something else that you can leverage versus money that can still benefit you?
Absolutely. One thing that we forget is time. Like you all were just talking about, hey, I can make more money. You didn't say more money, but I can make money out here. If you can't give me more money, I need more time. So what does my time away look like? What does the vacation structure look like? What does recording ahead of time look like? What does it mean to give me time? Also, travel. Right? There are certain things I need, even minor things like parking. We are in
That's
Atlanta.
not minor, especially coming from New York.
Absolutely.
$60 a day for parking, $70 a day for parking.
Easy. I'm in New York all the time, and people will say, I'm odd. I love the subway. But they're like, why don't you rent a car? Do you know how
can't park
it
anywhere.
would cost me more to park the car than to rent the car?
Right.
One of the valets, it was $100 a night.
I know.
Crazy.
I was like, what?
Yes.
This is crazy.
Yes. I'm like, by the time I pay for parking, I could have slept in my car because that's the hotel room.
Right.
Basically.
So that's a negotiable. All of these things, think of all the intangible things. What I tell my clients to do is ask yourself, what would you do with the money if they gave it to you? What would I buy with that money if they gave it to me? What would I spend it on? And now see how they can compensate for that. I would spend it on parking. I would spend it on vacation. I would spend it on time away. Well, then ask for those things if they can't give you the money to buy.
That was like, all right, so I want this salary plus I want 16 first class flights around the world.
But here's the deal. What if you work for Delta? And you're like, oh, I would have paid for a vacation. Well, you get flight benefits, but I don't want to fly standby. I'm an executive. My flight benefits needs to guarantee me a seat. Oh, Delta also has Delta Vacation. My flight benefits need to include a hotel.
Yeah.
Because that's what you would have bought if they paid you the extra money.
Right.
Right?
Go ahead and buy that casino, Reach Media.
Nah, this is all great stuff. And I know we have a million questions. We could probably go on forever. People probably have more questions as well. How can they reach out to you and just get a little bit more advice from you?
Absolutely. They can follow me on my Instagram. There I am, Dethra_Giles. That is DETHRA_GILES. Or we talk about employerpreneurs another day. All of my employerpreneurs need to be following me on LinkedIn. And there I am, simply Dethra Giles.
I'm about to lock in with you on LinkedIn right now.
What about
We're not
whistleblowers? Have you ever had to deal with that?
Absolutely. Listen, I've done mergers and acquisitions for large companies. I've hire everybody from janitors to presidents. When I say I have seen it all, from working to catch a predator to
Wow.
So yes, I have seen whistleblowers and had to work to protect them. See, this is HR saying what's in the best interest of the company. What was in the best interest of the company is not allowing them to go after someone who had blown the whistle, and to work with them to fix what happened and to pay them.
So you remind me of Olivia Pope. I like that.
Well, we thank you for spending time with us today, for sure. We hope everybody follows you and taps in with you. And just once again, we want to honor you as our hustler of the week. Miss Dethra Giles in the building. Thank you so much for coming by the Morning Hustle.
Thank you.
We are the Morning Hustle.